Now, at McDonald's, wake up to a $4 breakfast meal deal. Wake up to a sausage McMuffin or a sausage biscuit, to hash browns, and wake up to a hot coffee. Get your $4 breakfast meal deal.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
You know that thing that you love? You'll find others geeking out about it on Facebook. Whether you're looking for community or inspiration, Facebook helps turn passion into action. Obsessed with running a marathon? Discover a neighborhood run club group. Start training and meet your new neighbor. Thinking about cooking more at home? Connect with meal prep groups to discover recipes in a new community. And as you're scrolling the feed, you may even find reels showing you top running shoes or the best tools for your culinary journey. This summer, find more on Facebook.
To the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. I am dead once again on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined by Matthew. Please carry me, Betz.
That was so much worse than I thought it was going to be.
I didn't even practice beforehand.
Oh, man. You could have let me take it if you wanted a break or, you needed to call in a relief pitcher there, Kyle. We had Chris Cash on last week. We had to call in the relief pitcher for you. So, hey, it's okay to ask for help. I tell my girls that all the time. If you need help, just ask. It's all good. But, yeah, Kyle's on the struggle bus. He's having a little bit of a cold. A late January cold, as they say, Kyle. And as you said, it's...
In July.
What did I say, January?
Yeah, but we'll take it.
Whatever. Who knows what day it is, man? It's July. Actually, you know what? I do know what day it is, Kyle. Because 6 years ago, this podcast was born on this specific day. At the same time, do you know what our friends over at Chili's are doing this weekend?
No, please. I mean, I need to get plugged in. I was away, and so I feel uninformed actually. But tell me, what's going on at the grill and bar?
Well, they have a great social account. You should follow them. I interact with them daily. That's what most of my tweets are, actually. They have a $6 classic marg deal currently going on. And I was like, man, you know what? The stars are aligning. Kyle and I, 6 years of the show, the margarita is $6. This podcast started the day before my wedding. So I'm about to celebrate 6 years of marriage with my wife. So Kyle, I mean, what a way to start the weekend, a $6 marg. So, hey brother, just check your Venmo. You might have a $6.
Whoa.
A $6 gift coming from me. And you know what, Kyle, me and the wife are doing this weekend? We're going to Chili's. We're going to celebrate with a marg.
I am seeing from their account, buy your girl a marg. That's their terminology.
Done. I'll do it.
It's not bad. It's not bad marketing. I mean, the thing about it is, once it's in your head, it's very hard to just suddenly say, I'm not going to Chili's.
Yeah, I've already decided.
Yeah. This is a fun episode. It's our annual Change My Mind episode where Betz and I essentially get to tell each other why we're not so right, convince each other we could be wrong. And then at the end of it, we kind of come together and be like, yeah, it's probably somewhere in between. That's usually how this works in fantasy football. But yes, I am recovering. And it's not a good look that I came back from Vegas looking this sick.
I was going to say, Vegas got you, huh?
Vegas did get me, and it was mostly because I had a layover that turned into like a 5 or 6 hour delayed flight. So I didn't get home till 5 a.m.
Oh, man. Yeah, that would take me about 3 weeks to catch up from.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it, not a sponsor, but if they want to sponsor my life, I'm just a Delta guy through and through. Things go well when I use Delta. I don't think I've diverged from Delta in like 10 years. I did this one time on the way back. This is what I get.
Do you want to throw an airline under the bus?
No, I'm not going to do that.
It was American, wasn't it?
No,
It was United, wasn't it?
No, I saw what happened to Kevin McAllister on those kind of flights. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of stuff.
That's fair.
Delta here, hub in the South is this place to be. But a Change My Mind episode, we actually got to hear from some people in the Foot Clan about some things that we're hoping they can change our mind on as well. So we'll get to talk about that. Bear with me. I was telling Betz before, when you get sick, I mean, we live a tough life, right? You and I, great just talking about football. But the podcaster's nightmare is you wake up and you go, oh no, I know it's coming. And everyone else is feeling it with me as they hear it on Friday.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to carry the show, Kyle.
Carry me, please. I did have a quick question for us, and this is really simple. I'm going to list some players that I have heard literally nothing about. And I mean, either I missed it because I was on vacation, or I'm looking at my exposures, or I'm just looking at news and saying, like, I don't think we've ever talked about this player in the news over the last 3 months since the NFL draft. And I want you to tell me, is that good? Is that bad? And have you been taking this player in best ball? So literally, players I have heard next to nothing about this offseason. The first one, Oronde Gadsden II, tight end for the Chargers. Have you heard anything?
Almost nothing. I'm with you. So training camp is just starting. Let's see what we get here. But he's part of that massive tier of tight ends that they're all kind of the same type of bet, right? I am not taking as much as him as I probably would have otherwise, just because it's been so quiet, and just mostly because the uncertainty on the playing time at tight end. That is one of those things that I think really does matter in training camp. So I'm with you. Haven't heard much, and hopefully we get something soon.
We did a deep dive on the Chargers on the main show and about what their personnel is going to look like this year. 12 personnel, a lot of 21 personnel with 2 running backs on the field, a fullback. And I just feel like he's in a spot where it's like you're going to get squeezed out of having meaningful production, where I wish he was like tight end 18, and then I'd feel comfortable. So literally nothing. Like, I even did some searching and was like, man, why have we heard anything? I have heard very little, and maybe this is a good thing this offseason, about Jameson Williams.
I think that is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing.
He's only ever really been in the news when it's been not good news for the most part, whether injury or off the field or what have you. So, I mean, I saw a clip on Twitter the other day from training camp. Looked good, making a sideline grab. So he's there. He's working. And we'll see what he does. I think he's fascinating this year because I think there's still meat on the bone for him as a player. Like, it took a little bit to get going with the suspension and the ACL recovery. When he was young in his career, he didn't have the trust of the coaches. And then he finally got that, and we saw him unleash last year. But now we're asking, was that a Laporta off the field thing, or was that a, Dan Campbell recognizes how talented he is, we have to figure out a way to get the ball in his hands, or a little bit of both? As you said, the truth is somewhere in the middle, but he's fascinating because he's ascended every year in some of his metrics, and he's still in his, entering his prime. Like, this is a really fun player that I truthfully, like, in the middle of that kind of 5th round where he goes, he's a name that I always see there, and I'm like, all right, sure. Like, why not throw a share in here or there? But, like, I haven't really been aggressively targeting him. Maybe I should be, because I'm so bullish on the Lions this year, though.
I think that's my takeaway too. I think I'm at 9% right now.
Yeah.
So it's like you and I haven't really taken a stance. I'll take him if he's there, but I'm not being aggressive in a way that maybe I should, with the Lions losing their entire secondary in a span of like a couple of months. So they should be in some shootouts. What about my boy Rashad Bateman, who's been a best ball friend to me over the years? I'm seeing some highlights of the rookies. I'm seeing Jacoby Lane, but I don't really end up taking Bateman like I used to. So I guess my bigger question is, in the Ravens passing game, other than Flowers or Andrews, do you care about anybody else?
I have taken some Bateman, especially if it is a Lamar team or if it's a Bengals team, and I just kind of look for that Week 17 bring back. I haven't heard a lot of him, like, about being on the field and whatever. Like, obviously camp just started, but it seems like the local beats are kind of describing the wide receiver 3 competition as a competition between Devontae Walker and the 2 rookies. Whereas, like, it seems like the way that they talk about it, Bateman is kind of locked in as the guy, and that could change as the year goes on, depending on how he performs and health and everything else. But yeah, I think he's a good guy to mix in. I mean, he's always there in round 18 to 20 if you're on DraftKings, and I mean, there's some fragile bets there. I think you could do worse than Rashad Bateman. So I have mixed him in. I always recommend this too. Like, when you get into round 18 to 20, when we have minimal news, which we just had for like, a month and a half, now we actually do have news. But before that, you kind of get locked into like your guys, and these guys are all, generally speaking, very, very fragile bets. So just the way that I approach it is I just like try to, cover the board and throw darts here and there until we get more information. So I have taken him, but it's pretty much like Lamar or Bengals.
All right, I'm going to throw out Penn State alum Mike Sticky Gesicki, because I've been hearing a lot more about Eric All Jr.
Yeah.
And the only quote I have from Gesicki recently was when LeBron signed with the 76ers. He did have a good tweet. He's like, I'm going to see so many Penn State bros with their LeBron jerseys at tailgates at Penn State games. I was like, that's a good take. I think that's going to happen a lot. It's going to look cool, but I've not heard much about Gesicki.
Yeah, that is actually a interesting take from the former Penn Stater. I'll have to look out for that this fall. I have taken him, kind of the same thing with Bateman. It's like, if I need to bring back and I don't have T or Chase Brown or Jamar, and it's a Lamar team, and I need a tight end 3, it's like, okay, that works. Or if I'm looking for a second stacking partner with Joe Burrow, I have taken him. But it is worth pointing out, the team is reportedly pretty high on Eric All. It's similar to the Jonathan Brooks thing of like multiple ACL surgeries. Like, we need to kind of earn the trust first. We'll see where he's at as he gets on the field more. But, he has that more classic, like, inline tight end capability than Gesicki, who's a very specific role player. And Gesicki is one of those guys, I kind of treat him like a contingency bet, right? Like, if T or Jamar happen to miss time, you know that you can count on a bump in the projection for targets. So I think he's fine. Again, not somebody I'm trying to get overweight on, but I'll mix him in.
I just know the game I've been playing with the Bengals year in, year out is like, it's so condensed at the top with the top 4 options. I looked at the fact that they're favored in 15 of 17. They have one of the highest average totals of any team. I think it's at 49.1. It's like, I just want to take shots, but there's this giant gap every single year between taking Burrow and then the next Bengal off the board. Every single time, that's what we deal with. And we really haven't struck gold. Like, Gesicki did have a good year 2 years ago, but it was because Higgins was hurt. We haven't really struck gold with the RB2 the last couple years because it's been Chase Brown no matter what. I don't know. I want there to be another piece of the passing game that pays off. It's not Yoshivas, or it hasn't been. And then I hope that it's Gesicki. But I just haven't taken a ton of him. But I do like the Bengals a lot this year. Last one, and this is your boy. Of all the Jaguars talk this year, does it make total sense that Jacoby Myers would be the one to just fall through the cracks?
Just shows up.
He just does his job
done. He shows up on time. He stays for the whole thing. He leaves, goes home, studies the playbook, wakes up the next morning, comes right back. No more, no less. This is what you're getting from Jacoby, who's a pro's pro. It is so funny how the entire conversation all summer is, the backfield, which is super important to get right with Crod and Bashal Tootin. And then the excitement on, okay, BTJ, bounce back year, Parker Washington. How much stock can you put into last year? And nobody talks about Jacoby. And then there's the Travis Hunter excitement, like how many routes is he running? There is a world that exists where Jacoby just stays alive for 17 games and, 4 to 5 catches a game for 60 yards. And just all of a sudden you look up and you're like, he was actually kind of usable in best ball. I feel like he is one of those guys, and this is counterintuitive for best ball, where we think about you want spike weeks, you want upside, all those things. Like, in a season-long redraft league, there is almost no way Jacoby Myers is winning your league as like a guy you had to have.
I couldn't fathom taking him in a redraft league.
Yeah,
he's not even on my board.
Yeah, if you're starting him on a week in and week out basis, chances are your team is not incredible. Assuming health to the other players, he'll get a bump in projection if those guys go down as far as the wide receivers. But in best ball, if you do have these RB heavy starts, let's say you go with 2 in the first 3 or 4 rounds and you want one of the elite quarterbacks or something, and you're like, man, I need to make up at wide receiver, I think Jacoby is totally fine where he goes. So I've mixed him in, but I'm not, I'm not pounding the table, obviously. Although I will say, there will probably be multiple weeks this year, Kyle.
Exactly.
Where a 5,400 Jacoby Myers with Brian Thomas Jr. out for a week. I mean, in cash, man, give me those 12 points and that's fine.
Dude, he's going to drop in the 4K range. Like, he's going to end up being like 4,600 at some point, and we're going to project him for 8.3 targets.
Yep.
And he's going to get you, I don't know, 11.2 DK points, and you're happy.
I love this, man. That's what I signed up for.
I tried to explain a player the other day to a friend, and I was trying to explain Kate Otten, and they're like, but he's not good. I was like, but if he's like 3,200 or if he's 2,800, he's great. And my friend doesn't play DFS, so it was like so far off the radar of explaining something that's pretty important to our podcast.
That is actually a really good way to look at your last round picks. Like, you think about in DFS when we log into a slate and you're trying to find some value for these guys, like, who are the $3,200 players that week? It's generally speaking these archetypes of these guys that are going like round 17 later. So in a DFS, we also recommend, like, don't get so tied into this one player because it's a very fragile projection. It feels very similar if you think about that DFS kind of correlation. So yeah, in the later rounds, I know we just talked about Myers, who's obviously a lot earlier, but in the later rounds, until we get more information, I'm spreading out my exposures and hoping for the best.
All right. It is July 31st. So last episode of July, we're going to turn the page to August in a second. But before we do that, I need you to change my mind.
You talking to me?
I want to review what we talked about last year because you actually were pretty spot on. I went 1 for 2. Okay. And you probably have no idea what you did you?
I didn't remember at all.
Okay. So the goal of this segment is for us to take things that might be deeply ingrained in us, takes, thoughts, and then just get the counterpoint from the other person. Especially in best ball, this is a great time to check your exposures. We've talked about that a lot on the podcast. But I do just need to add this because I've been doing some reading over the offseason. And it's this same old adage, Betz. I think we learn a lot less from history than we do. And then the next year we take it and we say, this is what will happen because this is what happened last year. Football is crazy, man. Football is a chaotic game, and we try to get things right. And we try to get things right in a market-based system. So, for instance, last year I said the Broncos offense will be a trap. Okay? And there's statistical parts of that. How do you react to that statement?
I do remember having the conversation, and the way that you framed it is like they're probably going to spread it out too much to the point where not one piece matters a ton. It's kind of, I remember the conversation.
Yeah.
And I would say in general, that was pretty accurate.
It's a weird team because if you look at end-of-year stuff, Courtland Sutton finished as the wide receiver 13, RJ Harvey was a top 24 running back, and Bo Nix was the quarterback 6. But the games that Bo Nix blew up was about 3 or 4, and that was it. And the offense as a whole kind of underwhelmed. I mean, Bo Nix led the league in pass attempts, but you didn't really feel that. I do like the fact that when I go back through last year's data, Troy Franklin shows up literally everywhere. Do you know that he was 4th in the entire league in receptions on play action?
I do. There was a moment in time where he was emerging as the wide receiver 1. I remember writing about it in Showdown and stuff. And then it feels like Sean Payton just tries stuff and then, that didn't work. Let's try something different. And that was one of those blips on the radar last year.
Yeah. For a team that won 14 games, I feel like for fantasy, they were mostly meh. I mean, RJ Harvey had the run. Dobbins had the run. There's little games here and there. The tight end position didn't matter at all.
Right.
So it was a weird team despite winning 14 games. My other take that I gave last year, Trevor Lawrence is just not that good at fantasy.
Kyle. I mean, if you couldn't have seen the bump coming with Liam Cohen, brother, I can't help you. I tried last year to help you and you couldn't.
I'll say this. I got to give it up for the haters because they were right on this one. They were like, Kyle, this is so bad. So props to the haters out there who hated on my pick. And they were right. You got to give it up sometime for the haters.
Now the question is, are we buying back in at a better or at a more expensive cost for Lawrence? That's the question.
It's still not expensive enough, though, for me to turn away.
Yeah, I think he's fine where he goes.
Yeah. Your 2 takes last year, Drew Petzing, your boy, his scheme won't change enough for Marv to pay off. And that feels good.
Man, I was talking about this last night with some folks in Discord. So we were talking about Marv, and it's this is so frustrating. And you feel for the guy because you can see moments where his confidence is just shot. And I basically came to the conclusion, I am rooting for Marv, perhaps more than anybody. But I might be doing it from the sideline from a fantasy standpoint this year. Maybe there'll be weeks in DFS. But I don't know, just the more I think about the Cardinals, man, and just how many players are viable now. Last year when Jacoby was doing his thing, it was only to McBride and only to one of Wilson or Marv. And now we have an offense that we had a Jeremiah Love, one of the best pass-catching backs that has entered the league recently. Trey McBride's still there. They're talking up Michael Wilson a lot early in camp. A lot. And I just think it's one of those situations where they're all going so high that for a team that maybe best case scenario is 5 wins, maybe if they shock the world 6. I don't know, man. I'm rooting for the guy. I'm probably sitting this one out this year.
Yeah, Marv feels like you have to divide what you want personally for him, what you want for your dynasty teams, and then just what he is at this point. Which, you know what he is? He's kind of like budget Quentin Johnston.
No, don't say that.
That's what he's been.
Don't say that, Kyle. Producers, delete that.
Who has been a more valuable performer the last 2 years?
I mean, relative to cost, easily Quentin Johnston.
I know, and we're paying. Anyway, I love Marv. I hope he rights the ship, but it's not been good. Your other take last year was that the Bucs were set up to fail relative to expectations. And boy, the second half, they might have been one of the worst teams week to week. I know over the last 9 weeks, they didn't cover the spread at all. And Baker, we know, dealt with injury. But like looking back at Bucky, never really fully recovered. Evans was hurt. Egbuka obviously got off to a crazy hot start. But just overall, I mean, that was spot on. They failed relative to expectations.
Yeah, and if I remember the conversation on that, it wasn't predicting injury, obviously. It was just that Baker was coming off that unreal outlier touchdown rate season and then lost Liam Cohen, which is part of the reason we were in on Trevor Lawrence, or I was in on Trevor Lawrence. And then just, not much continuity going on. And then they picked up in training camp some offensive line injuries, and we still had the Godwin saga. So, yeah, it's so funny how you can change your mind on a team, because now, like, I'm back in on the Bucs. I think Baker's a really strong target where he goes. And there's some ambiguity at wide receiver, which offers cheaper costs to get these stacks. So, and there's uncertainty on Bucky. I think it's possible Bucky is one of those, didn't really need him, kind of goes too early backs. But I also think there's a world where it's like, last year was just a blip on the radar and he was hurt and he's as good as he was as a rookie. And we were scared of Kenny Gainwell. That's totally possible. So they are a team that I feel like we could have talked about again for this segment.
For sure. And now it's kind of the prices have overcorrected where I'm like, I'm buying in. Same thing with Baker. I think Baker's palatable at his price. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll talk about this year's takes.
This summer, there are 250 reasons to join T-Mobile.
Girls trip? Booked. And switching to T-Mobile helped make it happen.
With Experience Beyond, switch and get $100 back. Plus, $650 in value in built-in plan benefits. That's $750 in your first year, guaranteed.
And honestly, that $100 back, I'm putting it towards the zip line.
Now that's how you do summer.
Exactly. Best switch I ever made.
This is just one reason to join T-Mobile this summer. There are 250 reasons. Find yours.
Savings based on the value of benefits included with Experience Beyond, like entertainment and 1 year of AAA Classic and Dash Pass on us. Benefits may require activation. See plan for details. Get $100 via virtual prepaid MasterCard with eligible ported, no cash access, and expires in 6 months. Issued by Sunrise Banks, N.A., member FDIC. Allow 8 weeks.
When you're a maintenance engineer in a beverage manufacturing plant, you keep production lines moving and quality on track because there's no room for slowdowns. With Grainger's vast selection of high-quality motors, sensors, belts, and hard-to-find parts, you can get what you need fast and all in one place, so nothing gets in the way of getting the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
All right, we're each going to give 2 takes and then ask the other one to change my mind. I'm going to get this one out of the way because I feel like I'm stepping in front of a moving bus. And I don't think this is wise. I would not tell your children to do this. But here's my take. And this also follows up what I've done in best ball. So that's why I've kind of felt this. Have I told you this at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, here it is. If there is a year to finally fade the king, it is 2026. And I'm talking about Derrick Henry. Okay. Typing those words are terrifying. There's a little bit of shock and awe involved. I want people to, whatever you're doing in the car, like pull over, talk to your loved ones. Here's what he's saying, that Derrick Henry in a new offense with, spoiler alert, age concerns, something we've talked about for 10 years in a row, it feels like. I think that it's at the point now where I can see the breaking. This is a new system under Declan Doyle, who's a first-time play caller. And if you look at Baltimore last year, they were number 1 in early down rush rate. Okay, so it was like, it was a crazy high amount, 55%. I don't have the drop. But Chicago is middle of the road. This is where Doyle's coming from. They were 16th. And Derrick Henry has been an outlier his entire career. And last year, if you look at expected yards before contact, there's a really good study from Sam Hoppen, friend of the show. Derrick Henry and the Ravens ranked dead last in expected yards before contact. But if you look at their actual yards before contact, they were 3rd. So Derrick Henry was outperforming based on every single metric of what he was expected to do and what the offensive line was expected to do. The thing that's different this year about these Ravens is this different offensive line. Tyler Linderbaum is gone at center, and it's an entirely new system. If you just look at consensus rankings of offensive lines, they're in the 20s for a lot of them. So this is a different, you can't just plug and play and say this is what the Ravens have been, this is what they'll always be. So, am I off my rocker? Is this me too far in the weeds of expected yards before contact, and I just need to shut up and get a guy who's going to get 10 touchdowns?
It feels that way. It feels like it's time to open the blinds, let some sunlight into your room, and just take a step back. Because this is a running back who is the guaranteed workhorse for a team with an 11.5 win total that projects to be one of the best offenses in football based off look-ahead lines, 5th highest implied team total on average, so we can count the touchdown expectations. And if we think they're going to win 9, 10, 11, 12 games, it seems pretty good for the running back, don't you think? I mean, in Derrick Henry's career, in wins, he averages 19 fantasy points per game. Seems good. Kyle, seems good. I also want to point out the peripheral metrics on him for the concerns on the age were still really good, like elite
for
actually
sure.
Last year. 30 yards after contact per attempt, 4th in 10-plus yard runs, 4th in breakaway rush rate, 3rd in rush yards over expected per attempt. So at least the numbers suggest he's the same running back. But unfortunately, for a lot of these running backs, it's not just like it's slowly going to happen. Like some of these guys, it's like, it's done. I think Derrick Henry's fine. The problem for me is just that I think there's so many good second-round picks this year that...
That's the point.
I don't know that he'll be the piece you need, but dude, last year in week 17, he was the piece you needed. Him and Kyle Pitts, right? Like, just in the playoffs, he goes berserk against the Packers. So, the upside's still there. I for sure am not fading him, but I'm not overweight by any means.
I'm at 4%.
Are you scared about that?
Yeah, of course. If there's any player you should be scared of, it's him. But it goes back to what you're saying. There are so many other players in the 2nd and 3rd round that I feel like that's a good spot this year for running backs, especially if you start wide receiver in the 1st round and then you're able to get some of these guys, which I know we'll talk about them soon. On one of your takes, we'll talk about some of these running backs. I think the variable of the offensive line and the new play caller, for me, shifts how I look at it because I do think they'll be a little bit more pass heavy than they've been. And you look at just the splits last year, it was like Lamar, crazy hot start in the first 3 weeks, gets injured in week 4, then he's gone, and then he's kind of off for the rest of the year. Now, Henry was awesome down the stretch, and we know that's kind of been part of his bag over the years. I just think I was looking at the opportunity cost or the risk. Does it finally, because 1 year it will outweigh the reward. And everybody's trying to get ahead of it. And I feel like we've kind of now gotten to the point of like, well, I'll just never bet against it. It's like there will be a point where if you bet against it, it'll be profitable. And I'm kind of listening around. I don't hear anybody talking about it.
It is funny how like for 2 or 3 years straight, people were like, I don't know, man, Derrick Henry, another year older. Do we really want to make that bet? And that was at, like when he first got to Baltimore, that was at like a round 3, like fringe, sometimes round 4 cost. And now it's like, he's a top 15 pick. No concerns. Just, that's fine. So I hear you. But yeah, I'm in line with market.
Did we take an under on the win total?
The Ravens, I have to double check. I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm assuming if I looked at our schedule adjusted projections, we'd have them under 11.5 because that's just a high total that we normally would say, hey, that's too high. But yeah,
we did.
Okay. I just feel like this team is sadly very fragile in the pass catchers department. And then God forbid Henry gets hurt, but like there's just some pieces here that cause me concern. Do you think Declan Doyle, we can't just use Ben Johnson stuff and say he will be Ben Johnson, but like, do you expect a little bit more of a pass happy approach, or at least an uptick in passing volume?
I think a small uptick. It's always hard to project that to be a huge, meaningful difference when you have the backfield that you do with Lamar Jackson, who they obviously want to use his legs. And then you have Derrick Henry, who's one of the best running backs of the last decade. So I'd be surprised if it changes. Like, you're not building the plane around Rashad Bateman, Devontae Walker, and an older Mark Andrews and the rookies, right? Like, so I think it'll be mostly the same, but a small uptick is how I'd frame it.
All right, I'm going to give you one more stat with Henry because he saw the most carries inside the 5 of his entire career. Okay, I don't think he's going to see 27 again. He only turned 10 of those into touchdowns. It was a 37% success rate. For Derrick Henry, it was not as good as it's been. And then the last one, only one running back who's been 32 or older had a double-digit touchdown season since 2010. And it was your boy D'Angelo Williams with the Steelers.
That was a fun season.
Yeah. So history would say you can bet against it, but I think people have been doing that for years. And now it feels like I'm weirdly alone.
I mean, we always say in tournaments, right, for DFS, if he's popular, maybe go with the fade. If he's not popular, play him and hope he smashes. And it seems like he's popular. So Kyle is fading and scared.
Terrified.
And I'm going to be a coward and have 8%.
You show your wife 8%. She's like, I don't even know what this means.
We'll know what it means in December. Let's talk about those round 2 running backs, Kyle.
I just would love it if she would say, oh, this means you're a coward. Like she knows right away that you're a coward.
Yeah, it's better to have 2% or something like that. Like 8 is just, you're just, I'll click the guy at the top every time. 8%, sure, come on down. Just root for everybody in the NFL. You have 8% of every player in best ball.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that you have no stress any week because all your guys, you're rooting for everybody.
Yay,
what
football.
A time to be alive. All right, round 2 we mentioned is strong. I think really strong this year. You talk about the running backs from Saquon to Ken Walker to sometimes Genty will fall. Achane, Amarian Hampton, Chase Brown, all those running backs are good. Brock Bowers we're in love with. Like, I don't want none of Drake London either, right? So it's hard to take stands in this range of the draft, in my opinion, which is why I'm at 8%. Derrick Henry, but there is one running back I do want to be overweight on, and it's Ken Walker. And Kyle is smiling because I know what he's about to say about the workload, and he's never really been this type of guy, and you're just following the crowd and all these sort of things. But let me tell you what, Kyle, we need to think about what teams do with their money and what it tells us about what they are going to do. Rashee Rice literally rehabbed a knee injury in jail weeks ago. Xavier Worthy, unclear on how good this guy is in the NFL, has a role, but is he going to be a guy you build your offense around? No, of course not. Travis Kelce, now married, is 37 years old. I mean, Kyle, that's like you. Could you imagine being on an NFL field? You would
Not
break.
today. Not in this body today.
Not today, but maybe tomorrow. So obviously the pass catching cores, they're running it back. There's issues. Pat Mahomes is coming off a multi-ligament injury. He looks good in camp so far. He will play early in the season. There's not really many concerns about that, but can you count on him to drop back 35 to 40 times a game, which they used to do with him, and say, hey, Pat, go win the game for us? Not coming off the injury, in my opinion, especially as a runner. And so what do? They go make Ken Walker one of the most rich running backs in the league, top 5 in average annual salary, after years of saying, we got Pat Mahomes. We don't need a running back. We'll just kind of, Damian Williams come on down and Kareem Hunt off the couch. Why not? Isaiah Pacheco in round 7. Sure. They said, no, not no more. Ken Walker, come on over. Kenneth Walker, I've heard, got a very similar contract offer from Seattle to go back to being the Super Bowl champion with his team. He left to go get more touches because they've been having him in committee for so many years. And I think when you follow the contract, it makes sense. I also want to point out, it wasn't that long ago that we used to be like, Andy Reid, running backs, dude, these are the league winners. And it feels like we're right back there again. You can use him in the screen game. We know he's really good in the passing game. We know he can hit the home runs. Kansas City could not do that last year. And so I think there's an opportunity here for Ken Walker to be one of those pieces you needed in round 2. And my bold take here, I believe he will outscore Jonathan Taylor, Ashton Genty, James Cook, my man Saquon Barkley, Devon Achane, Chase Brown, and Amarian Hampton. I think he should be, at the end of the year, we look up, he's a guy that finishes inside the top 12 at fantasy.
If he's that, he's top 5. That's what he is. That's what you're declaring. Just say it.
You said it.
That's the names you just listed. He would basically finish as RB5.
Let me tell you something, Kyle. This man has played 31 games in the NFL where he has seen at least 14 carries. That's not a huge, you would say that's pretty reasonable expectation.
Pretty mid, yeah.
Yeah, pretty mid. But I think we would all agree he probably sees more than that this year. In the games that he has seen 14 plus carries, he averages just over 15 fantasy points per game. Last year, that would have finished as the RB8. This guy's floor is RB8, Kyle. It's the floor. Are you kidding me?
Well, did it work for those people?
No, it never does. I mean, these people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but... but it might work for us.
I get it. I get it. If your goal is to buy into the hive mind, the Confucius, the man, if you're here to stick your nose in corporate's butt and say this smells good, I get it. Ken Walker, we can't just use stats in the past, but let me just give you his finishes so far. 16, 19, 26, 22. You might say, oh, he split the backfield. If he was good enough, why was he splitting the backfield, man? And yes, he hits the home run. Yes, he forced missed tackles, but we got to give the other side of that. All right. This is what my counsel or this lawyer in front of me, I don't know why I turned this into a courtroom.
I don't know either.
But did you know that he was 38th among 55 qualified running backs in percentage of runs that went for 3 or less? He was 51st in rush success rate. He is one of the most volatile runners, which will give you big plays and then also drive Andy Reid crazy. Because this guy loves taking runs for losses. And you know that that's true. In fact, I need you to concede it right now.
Are we really thinking that they're going to take Kenneth Walker off the field for Rashard Smith and Marty Mercado?
No, I just said that he's going to frustrate them sometimes. But I do want to throw out about the Chiefs' offensive line. It's all over the map. Brandon Thorne, who I know we respect a ton, has them 8th. Mike Clay has them 26th. Warren Sharp, friend of the show, 23rd. It's kind of all over the map when you look at the offensive line plays. Last year, they were not explosive at all as an offense. We've talked about that a lot. Like, you think of the plays that Ken Walker had and you compare to the running backs, but as an offense, I'm not just talking like running, but as an offense, they had 4 offensive plays of 20-plus yards that resulted in a touchdown. It was tied for the fewest in the NFL. So there is an offensive structure standpoint question about this team, because you can just throw away and say, oh, Mahomes was hurt. Mahomes played the first 15 weeks, and the offense still wasn't great. So I actually think there's an issue with the offense and the way that it functions for big plays that is concerning to me at some level. I do think he's a good pick and redraft. I don't know if I agree with you that I have to have him over these guys in this area. And one more stat for you. Andy Reid, you talked about Andy Reid running backs. Going all the way back to 2016, so we've been a decade here. The pass and rush rate for Andy Reid has been pretty much stable, all right? It's been 38% rush rate, 37, 35, 35, 33, 33. They've all been under 40%, okay? This team just doesn't run the ball a ton. We've known that for years. You might counter and say, well, now they have a good running back to be able to do it. But over the last 5 years, just 10% of the top 12 running backs were on teams that had below a 40% rush rate. So I do think they will change it, but this would be different than any other Andy Reid offense over the last 10 years if they went over 40%. So there is some risk there. I think he's a good pick and redraft. I'm not going to argue that he's going to get everything and be better than what they had. I just think at the end of the day, those other guys are just as good. Like, he doesn't separate from the field the way that I think Mike or maybe you sees it.
Yeah, I think the way that I'd frame this is I'm taking all the guys I mentioned because this range is so strong in the draft that there's no way I'm going to have like 25% Ken Walker. But like, I want way more Walker than Achane. I think I want more Walker than maybe Genty, just from a team level scoring expectation standpoint. Maybe more Walker than Marion Hampton. Like, I like all these guys, but I think when you're making bets here and you're doing a bunch of drafts, framing it from like an exposure standpoint is easier because you're not fading all these guys. You're obviously getting some of these guys. So I will have probably more Walker than some of the other running backs that go in this range, but I'm with you. These other guys are also very strong picks.
All right, I'm going to give you another take. This one's going to be a little bit quicker, but it has been growing in my mind for a couple months. And I'm at the point now where I just want to say it. I want to tell the world. I think Carnell Tate will finish as a top 15 wide receiver.
No.
He could. Now let me give you some numbers with this. So I like, obviously, the draft capital we love, 4th overall. We didn't love some of the per route metrics when you looked at Ohio State and said, hey, Jeremiah Smith's there. He was with other NFL talents. So he didn't command targets the way that we normally want to. But there have been players that have that draft capital that get to the NFL, and you can kind of explain it away. Brian Thomas, I know, is a joke for people, but like, his targets per out run at LSU weren't great because of Malik Neighbors, comes in the first year and dominates in targets per out run. This offense needs him, and historically, Brian Daboll, he's a creative play caller that we respect, and he's hyper targeted when he has a wide receiver one. Malik Neighbors, going all the way back to Steph Diggs. If he has somebody they see as a wide receiver one, they can see 140, 150 targets. And I'm looking at our projections in the UDK. All three ballers have him at 75 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Only 6 rookie wide receivers have done that over the last decade, and I don't think that's the ceiling. Carnell Tate is essentially making a similar bet to what we did with Tetairoa McMillan last year, which is this guy to be the one in his offense? Can he get 7 touchdowns and 1,000 yards, even though the quarterback is still lagging behind? I have more hope in Cam Ward taking a step forward than I ever did with Bryce Young. So Cam Ward had some issues last year, but I do think it's there for them to take a step forward. So Carnell Tate, top 15, it might be hot, but like the best part is you don't have to draft him there, and I think there's a stealing case.
Top 15 is hot. It's hard to beat
that. Is that
what
what McMillan was last year?
He was tight end. He was wide receiver 17 if you're looking at total points. Okay. I didn't look at per game, but I think it's possible. I mean, if he is that talented as the draft capital suggests, and these other Ohio State guys have been, excluding Marv, there's a chance he could do this. You have to have Cam Ward take a step forward, right? There's no question. You have to. And the good news is it can't get any worse. Among 37 quarterbacks with those 200-plus plays last year, he was either 36th or 37th in basically every metric.
Not great.
So the arrow is pointing up on Cam Ward because it has to. I do think there's a possibility that, like, you know how in Best Ball ADP we always talk about what just happened? For a couple of years there, we had the Marv was so expensive. Neighbors was so expensive. You got to get these first-round rookie wide receivers. They're so expensive. And now it kind of feels like he's settled into a part of the range where it's fairly priced at, like, you know, sometimes he's in the 6th, but like mid to late 5th round, like, seems viable to me for a guy that was drafted inside the top 5 of the real-life NFL draft. So I do see the upside case here. The problem is basically every kind of team level standpoint is holding it back, right? And you just need the Titans to overperform expectation because they have a consensus bottom 5 offensive line. They are 26th in implied average team total, so touchdown expectation is kind of lacking. And I think that Tetairoa McMillan comp actually is pretty fair because it's like Tet was always very good. There's no question about his talent, but Bryce Young was not throwing for 30 touchdowns, right? You need these touchdowns to actually get these difference-making seasons at wide receiver. And so, at every position. But that's the question for me. Like, do you have one of those seasons where it's like, okay, 1,100 yards, awesome season, but 4 touchdowns?
Right.
If you're playing half PPR, that's not going to get it done. So that's my only question. I think he is a talented player. I do like Brian Daboll. I'm a Cam Ward fan, even though I think he's volatile, is how I'd put it. But I see the argument for this. It's just that he goes in a range where there's also a lot of really strong bets around him that I also want to make. So I'm lukewarm on this take.
Yeah, I can't tell if I'm at the point now where I'm at 20%. So I've definitely made my stance. It's not over the top where I'm like breaking the bank, but I'm trying to figure out if I need to back off a little bit, especially if his price rises. Like there's a real chance we get highlights, he catches a preseason touchdown, and he moves up.
Yeah.
So love the player. I think I also just like the story too. Like he's a dog. He's not just, I'm out here to catch balls. Like he wants to block. And I trust Brian Daboll. And that's something that I did not trust last year. Brian Callahan might have been at the bottom of the list. This year it's Frank Reich. He's at the bottom. I'll go Frank.
Poor Frank, man. Pour one out. All right. We always talk about ambiguous backfields and how they are very important in fantasy and in best ball if you get the right one. So I want to tell everybody the answer to which Carolina running back you need this year is no one. It's none of these guys. Especially considering the rising cost of Jonathan Brooks. I want to caveat this. If you have Brooks shares from 140, 120, 115 in ADP, those look awesome. You are getting massive clothesline value because he is on a rocket ship to being a top 75 pick at some point in the next couple of weeks. He's going to flip Chuba in cost. I'm not even saying I necessarily disagree with the market movement because all the reports have been positive. He presumably is healthy. There's some rumblings from local and national reporters like, hey, they think he can take over this backfield. And so if that happens and you get that at a cost of 130 in your ADP, that is an unreal cheat code. But if he gets to being a top 75-ish pick, which I've seen him go in the 80s just this past week, so it is coming, the opportunity cost there relative to a guy going at 120 just a couple of months ago is vastly different. And so I just want to point out, there are still so many systemic concerns for Carolina that I don't want to keep chasing this, because I was a guy who was behind on Brooks initially. And then it was like, okay, he's at 110. Like, you better get your shares now because it's going to be gone soon. So I've been playing catch up for the last 2 weeks with Brooks. And I'm at a point now where I've got 6%. Seems fine. I've got like 4% Chuba, whatever. If I need a running back, like, I'll take him. I'm not prioritizing him. But my thing with these guys is, like, we just need to remember the conversation we had on Carolina on the win totals episode. Under 7.5 has been the biggest win total bet I've made in the last 3 or 4 years. This team was so fortunate to be 8-9 last year. And yes, the division helped. Perhaps it helps again this year. But when you think about the fact that they had a negative point differential, the fact that they were 27th in average team total, the fact that they are favored this year in just 3 games, they have offensive line injuries. They still have Bryce Young at quarterback. We think they're very, very likely to regress. It's just a tough bet when the cost is getting more extreme every single day. To point out something from Warren Sharp from his book, the Panthers trailed by 92 points entering the fourth quarter. In 26 years of this century, 471 teams have won at least 8 games. Only 3 did that by trailing for 90-plus points entering the fourth quarter. The Carolina Panthers were one of those teams, one of those 3 teams that happened last year. So just from if that doesn't paint the picture on regression for you, nothing will. I think the bottom on this team, the floor is extremely low. Bryce Young was 32nd EPA per attempt, 30th in success rate, 35th in YPA. So I'm not going to chase the cost up on these running backs, given that the team is still a huge concern for me.
Yeah, I'm looking. They trailed on 61% of their offensive snaps. So that was 27th the NFL. And no other team that made the playoffs was over 50%. So there's just like, they belonged in the bottom tier of the NFL. They were just super fortunate that they happened to be in the division that didn't matter. And then we get a much harder schedule. I think I understand the systemic risk you're talking about. I understand from a cost perspective. I have Brooks right now at 18%. And part of that is he was just ahead of my ranks for a while. This isn't toot my own horn. It's just that's where I was. And I have 2% Chuba. So I kind of made that stance early. And now I'm at the point where I think I agree with you. If he's a top 80 pick, especially if you're playing in a large tournament, like that's the part. Like now, if they're like capped and you got them early and you got in your exposure in those, whatever tournaments that expired, cool. Like you should be happy for yourself. You made the right read on a situation that we love the player coming out of Texas, but there is issues. This offensive line has had injuries, and yet they have people waiting in the wings. So I think they're actually going to be okay. But man, even Chris Brazell went down the other day. It's pretty rough. Like I like Jalen Coker. I don't think he can function as a 2. I like him more as a 3, and the tight end position is a 0 basically for them as well. So skill position wise, it's really rough. I mean, Brooks wouldn't shock me if he ends up seeing 50 targets. So that's rare to find at this point. But he's not going to go any lower. No chance.
Yeah, he's on a rocket ship, and his ADP is rising daily.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to really change your mind. It was well thought out. And I think we're pretty much in step. Now, Chuba, last thing. Anything you want to say about Chuba? Is there a point where you will be drafting him?
I mean, there's been builds where it's just like, I need running back here. Like, I'm doing some 0 RB teams this year just because I think we talk about just the game theory thing of like...
They said it would be fun.
They said years ago you had to do it. And now they're like, dude, you're not drafting 6 running backs in the first 7 rounds. Are you an idiot? And so I am building some teams where it's hero RB or 0 RB. And these guys are targets on those teams. But somebody just in my room always is taking Brooks ahead of me. Just, I don't know. I guess people are just more excited. And then Chuba will fall to like the 9th round. And I'm like, okay, how bad could this be? So I have mixed him in, but he's not a target, I would say.
Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break and we'll get to some Discord answers.
Grainger knows when you're a procurement manager for an office park, you're not managing one building, you're managing all of them. And to stay ahead, you need to see through walls and around corners. Lights about to fail, filters ready to clog, HVAC on its last leg. If you wait until something breaks, you're already behind. Count on Grainger for quality products, easy reordering, and 24/7 support. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
In the U.S., there's a break-in every 26 seconds. But when intruders step near, Simply Safe Home Security steps up.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. Police are on the way.
Using AI alerts, U.S.-based live agents help deter break-ins. Simply Safe, no long-term contracts. Save 50% on your new system with professional monitoring at simplysafe.com/SXM or with promo code SXM.
Outdoor deterrence requires a Simply Safe Active Guard outdoor protection plan starting at $49.99 a month. Visit simplysafe.com/licenses for alarm license information. Tennessee 2012.
All right, we got some interesting thoughts from people on the Discord, and just want to give you guys a shout out in our Best Ball channel. You keep it live, you keep it active. And I also realized that talking on a podcast, I forget what I say. Like I honestly forgot what I said 3 months ago. I'm not going back and listening to those people. Sorry. So sometimes people would bring up an opinion that I had. I'm like, oh yeah, I had that opinion 3 months ago. And in Best Ball, I will just say in this format, you can have an opinion, get your exposure like we have with Jonathan Brooks. And then a couple months later you go, yeah, I don't feel as warm on that anymore because the market has changed. And so that's kind of where this goes is it's a market-based game and it's okay if things change. And I'm open to changing my mind. This first one's from Penguin. And he said, Isaiah Pacheco is not a good pick where he goes. Gibbs is going to dominate the workload. They will probably bring in someone else before the season starts, like Najee Harris. What do you think about this? And also, if you can look up Betz Pacheco where his ADP has risen, because he was on that first Best Ball episode of like, hey, I think this is a terrible ADP for him. I think it's only going to rise from here. And I want to say we were getting him in the 140s, 150s. I know he's not going there anymore, but is Isaiah Pacheco in your mind a bad pick now where he goes?
So Pacheco's actually fallen recently in the last couple of days. He is down to 150 on Underdog. He had gotten up to the early 140s at one point, and he's come back down. So he's kind of roller coastered.
I think it's just hard for me to call somebody at 150 a bad pick, personally.
I think I've backed off on Pacheco quite a bit. The thing that I keep coming back to is this the landing spot for a potential...
For sure.
The Cardinals are not keeping all four of their running backs, in my opinion, because if you're not playing special teams, you're not, and they're clearly keeping Algier and Love, and so it's like they seem to think James Conner is valuable. Is Trey Benson one of these guys that floats into a backfield and maybe messes up what you're thinking about the RB2 situation? I think it's possible, and I think maybe even likely. So the Lions, I do agree, are one of those kind of sneaky, like, maybe they just add somebody for super cheap to give them more depth. On the being a bad pick, that's what you're saying is like, I wouldn't say he's a bad pick. I don't think he's an amazing target, personally. There's a lot of other players in that range that I'm looking to take. So if I need running back there, if it's a Lions stack and I don't have Gibbs, I'm taking him. But I'm not saying that he's a guy that I'm going to be well overweight on. That's
the thing. I'm buying into the team. We've been buying into the Lions. You know us, classic Lions guys over the years. Not last year, but this year. And yeah, so to me, it's just a team thing, and I'm buying into it. Yeah, they could bring somebody else in. I will add that, like, Gibbs is going to see a bigger workload. Nobody's going to argue that. Even during his insane run, I think it was from week 11 on when Dan Campbell took over, he had one touchdown inside the 5. So, like, let's not just say that, like, he was this monster goal line back. They still mixed in other people, and David Montgomery vacates 34 red zone carries. Those are, like, let's say that, I don't know, Gibbs gets 70% of those. Like, there's still a valuable role in the game that we play at pick 150 for a Lions backup running back. Now, if you just say he's not the guy and you're making your bets and you say there's other guys in that range I want, that's fine. I just find it hard based on the team's implied total to say, here's all these other options. There's just not a ton of options there.
Yeah, for sure. And like, he goes kind of in the same range as like somebody like a Woody Marks. You know, it's I just prefer the Lions offense. Personally.
Yeah. Yeah. And is Pacheco good? I would say no. Like, he's not a good running back at this stage.
He's a replaceable talent.
For sure. But like, I just think that they have other like ways to score. And we know this team's going to have to score a ton. But if Pacheco ends up with 5 or 6 touchdowns at pick 150, I think he's fine.
That's how I would describe him. He's fine.
He's fine. All right. This one is from Aquila Penn. It says, change my mind. Baishal Tootin is a bad pick. at his current ADP. And the only thing going for him is opportunity. He has yet to prove anything in the NFL. I don't know if I agree in the sense that like there's more for him to prove, but he was a better goal line back last year than Travis Etienne by a long mile. Travis Etienne, sorry. And I know we're getting glowing reports from him, but he's still not expensive enough. Like if he was RB 16, I think you and I would have some issues. That's not where he is.
The thing that's so tricky about this is that, like just a year or two ago, I really think this is a guy that would be like a 7th round pick. You know, in other seasons of other iterations of best ball, you'd be like, and that's a smash. But now he does go at a point where I've seen him go like in the early 5th round. And sometimes to take him, you've got to pass on legit wide receivers that have huge ceilings. Somebody like Luther Burden's kind of falling recently. I don't know what's going on there, but he's fallen a little bit. I mean, I love the upside case of Jameson Williams, like we talked about. I think Lamar is an awesome pick this year. Like, there's so many guys in that range. So from that perspective, I totally understand it. I do think, though, when you're looking at the right tail outcomes, Bashal Tutin still can beat this ADP. Maybe not overall, like when you're comparing him to some of the wide receivers, but comparing him to an expensive running back market that we're currently in, I think he can still beat this. So I wouldn't say he's a bad pick. I think he is slightly overpriced for the type of profile that we used to be able to get cheaper. I do agree with that, but I don't want to ignore Bashal Tutin because it's one of those things where it's like, Chris Rodriguez is fine. He's totally fine. Fine RB2 or RB3 in the NFL. You're not going to build your offense around him, right? And Liam Cohen is a very sharp guy. I know they trust each other, whatever, but it's like, man, people keep assuming Chris Rodriguez is getting the goal line. They gave Bashal Tutin goal line touches last year, and he was really good at that role. And if there's one guy that's going to emerge as the 3-down pass catcher, it's going to be Tutin. It's not going to be Chris Rodriguez who doesn't catch the football. So I think it's possible Tutin has an opportunity here, and if he capitalizes on it, he'll run away with it. If he's not great, it will be a 3-way committee. That's how I'm viewing it.
See, I was looking at the ADP, and I think he's not as expensive as he would have been a couple years ago because we have this run on running backs this year, and everybody's pushed up. So I think 53rd overall for Tutin feels expensive. RB 23 does not feel so expensive to me. And you kind of have the tension of those two things because you have all these options in the teens at running back that feel very, very strong. So maybe that's the issue. It's just based on your builds. Is Tutin a bad pick in going in the top 5 rounds or at the end of round 4? I could see that. But I'm chasing the pass catcher, and Rodriguez has 6 receptions throughout his career. Rodriguez is really good as a short yardage specialist and in terms of rush success rate, but so is Tutin. So his yards per carry is one of the most flawed stats because he had so many carries inside the 5 for Tutin. If you look at carries outside, like between the 20s type carries, he's very good. He's very fine. So I'm buying into the offense. It is weird when you look at the Jaguars and you start poking around. You're like, man, he's the most expensive Jaguar. Like,
that's crazy.
That's weird to say because you'd think it'd be one of the wide receivers. You know Lawrence goes later. You know Strange goes later. So you kind of have to build your Jaguars team that way if you want to do it. Or, you could start with the wide receivers and end up with Crowd later. But for a player that, yes, I agree, we are banking on this. I feel like a couple years ago, we didn't have the stalwart running backs in this range. So he could have got pushed up as like RB 15 or 16, like the Royce Freeman range. We're like, I guess I'm taking this guy who is a day 3 running back. Royce Freeman was day 2, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's where he used to get pushed up, but we have a nice supply now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. A couple more here from Josh Huffing Paint. And it looks like he's an Eagles fan.
Well, then there's no way what you're about to read comes with any bias. There's no bias here at all.
Yeah, there's no bias. Also, is that what Eagles fans do? Just
huff paint?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the weekends.
Nothing to do. Nothing to do in Philly. Just cause if nobody's winning anything, we can't vandalize. We're just gonna huff paint.
Oh, what a city.
Man. All right. His take is that Dallas Goedert is going to smash this year. He's going to get 10 plus touchdowns again. He's going to end up as a top 5 tight end, and he's one of the best ball picks this year. Thoughts?
He was my league winner at tight end when we did this episode, so I can't really disagree. but it was more of I think he's too cheap relative to overall cost, because while we want to think about the second wide receiver in this offense, and granted, Mekhi Lemon could develop into that. Dontavian Wicks could be fine enough to keep that role. But like the tight end in this offense will be featured. I agree with that. The problem is, and it's going to look totally different. Reports in the first day of camp were a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of play action, a lot of under center, which we've been begging for from Hurts for years. I think it's going to look a lot different. The problem is he's one of the most obvious like regression candidates at touchdown department that I don't know that I can get behind a 10-plus touchdown season. I can get behind him beating the other tight ends around him, though, in ADP. I can get behind that. Kevin Patullo was doing weird stuff last year, man. Giving Dallas Goedert little like underhand screen passes at the 4-yard line. I don't know. So you can't bank on that. But I agree with you. I think he's a good pick where he goes. It's just hard to see him being a top 5 tight end.
Yeah. What if he ends up with 8 touchdowns, but the volume comes up? That's Please. What I feel like it's going to happen is like he was on the right side of a lot of touchdown stuff, which he's never really been. And then I will give him some credit. All right. Jason and I were talking about Philly in the passing game earlier, but when they used play action last year, he was targeted on 44% of his routes, Dallas Goedert. Like it's like a wild amount. I mean, he led the team in receptions with 29 yards per route run on play action bets. This is the sexy stuff right here. 3.73 for Dallas Goedert on play action passes last year.
That's hot.
I know. So there isn't enough to like, I can't really argue with tight end 15 and 135th overall. Like once you start to get past pick 120, is somebody a good pick? Is somebody a bad pick? I'm just never going to poke holes. It could work out. It could not work out.
It might work for them.
What about Eli Stowers? Do you take him at all?
I haven't.
Poor guy. He's just taking a year to watch and figure out tight end.
Yeah, he's learning the ropes.
So real quick, I know we're about to end the episode. How are they going to do their sets this year? Smith outside. Is Lemon going to be playing the slot? Wicks on the outside? And Goddard? Is it going to be a lot of 11?
No, they're going to be a lot of 12.
Okay. Tell me more.
A lot of 12, a lot of under center. Smitty never leaves the field. Early in the season, Dontavian Wicks will have his role on the outside. Lemon will rotate into the slot when they go through wide receivers. But by year's end, Lemon will overtake Dontavian Wicks, and they will be playing in 12 personnel because he can play on the outside.
Correct. He led the class.
That's how I'm interpreting early reports. You're going to see Dontavian Wicks is running with the ones in 12 personnel. But as we know, with rookies, we're not really expecting their October and December usage to look the same as it does in week 1. It's gonna grow.
All right, that's gonna do it for this episode. We will be back and turning the page next week. We'll talk about our DFS and betting lessons learned and getting you ready for week 1, which, dear Lord, is a little over a month away. We're not
coming in hot.
Tell everyone goodbye.
Oh man, Kyle, what an episode. What an episode. You told us Derrick Henry's not going to be good this year. Are you kidding me, dude? Oof, rough day to be Kyle. Hope you enjoyed this episode, everybody. We'll be back next week to talk more best ball. Look ahead to some DFS concepts coming up in August. Excited for that as we get to 5 main shows a week and training camps rolling. See you then.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Walmart shoppers, meet the debit card designed with you in mind. The Walmart Money Card offers up to $75 cash back on purchases at Walmart each year. Early direct deposit, overdraft protection, and so much more. When Walmart is your everyday store, you need a card to match. That's the Walmart Money Card. Open your account today. The Walmart Money Card is issued by Green Dot Bank, member FDIC. Fees, terms, and conditions apply. Visit walmartmoneycard.com to learn more.
Some say Odoo Business Management software is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. Some say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk, scaling with you while being magically affordable. And some say Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more are like building blocks for creating a custom software suite. But I say Odoo is all of it. Fertilizer magic beanstalk building blocks for business. Yeah, Odoo. Exactly what every business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.